Yeah.
Good evening, and welcome to this forum with the candidates for Peoria Public School District 150, District 2. I'm John T. Brady. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria, and I will be serving as the moderator for our forum tonight. The League is grateful to the Peoria City County Health Department for making the space available for tonight's forum. Because this building is a health facility, the health department has asked that those attending wear masks during the program. The candidates themselves will be allowed to speak and answer questions without having a mask in place. In fairness to everyone involved, and so that we can make the best use of our time tonight, we are asking everyone to observe the following guidelines for the evening. First of all, as is always the case, please turn off your cell phones so they won't be disturbing anyone during the course of our forum. Also, this can be hard, but please do not applaud. Pausing for applause takes time away from the time that the candidates have available for answering questions. As far as ground rules go, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates have drawn lots to determine the order of presentation. And I would say parenthetically here, in asking each of the candidates how they prefer to be addressed, they have indicated they are most comfortable with first names. So that's the way I will be referring to them. And as a result of that drawing by lots, Greg will be the first one with an opening statement, and then Paris will follow, and finally we will hear from Dan. Candidates will alternate in the order of their speaking. The candidate who makes the first opening statement, in this case Greg, will move to the end of the line for the first question. And if I can remember all the rules, this will continue throughout the questioning and the closing statements. Candidate statements and their responses will be timed. Local league members will keep time and display countdown cards. And timers, would you please just wave a couple of the paddles there so we can see what they're going to look like? So this is the kind of message that you will receive. And the last one is maybe the most important one. It's being held up right now. The timers will hold up a paddle to indicate how many seconds you have remaining to answer. And a stop panel, bright red, will be used to indicate that time is up. And I would ask each of the speakers to honor that stop panel and to stop talking when the panel is raised. If necessary, and I don't think it will be, but I may interrupt the forum to enforce time limits and the other ground rules that have been agreed to. Now, we'll have a number of questions tonight, and questions have been solicited in advance from members of the local League of Women Voters. Additionally, questions will be solicited from audience members here tonight, and I would encourage everyone in the audience, if you have any questions, please submit them. We have a league member who is standing there who has cards that can accept your written questions, so please feel free to do that. And the league members then will collect any written questions that anyone in the audience wishes to submit. And together with the other league members, we'll try to determine which additional questions will be used. And because of the time limits, we may not be able to get to all of the questions that are submitted. And sometimes if we have questions that raise similar issues, why we may combine those in terms of trying to make the best use of our time. And each question will be submitted to each of the candidates. So please, if you're submitting questions, don't direct your question to one candidate or another. Each of the candidates will be answering each question. And candidates, I'll do the best I can to articulate and to speak loudly. But however, if there is any question that you would like to have repeated, why, please ask me and we'll try to make any ambiguity clear there. So we're almost ready to start, but before we do start, I would remind everybody here that the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria participates with our Illinois State League in compiling the Illinois Voter Guide. And this is a one-stop shop where you can get lots of information about voting deadlines, where to register, candidate information, and all of that. So I'd encourage you to go to that great league resource. It is located at www.illinoisvoterguide.org. And with that as an introduction, we will move on to opening statements. And as a result of the draw, Greg will begin with the first opening statement. So each statement again will be 2 minutes. Greg?
Thank you. Should I use the mic or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us. Big thank you to the League of Women Voters as well. Appreciate the opportunity. I guess I'll start off with my name's Gregory Wilson. I'm a father of 5 children, 3 of which attend district schools. I have 2 twins that attend Glen Oak, and I have one, my oldest, who attends Rolling Acres. My education history, I have my bachelor's in science, master's in business administration, and I'm finishing up my doctorates in business administration. So can't wait to get that finished. I'm also a fiance, getting married this year. I'm excited about that. I started working inside the schools in 2008, 2009, inside of Harrison and Treewind. Really noticed a lot of the struggles that some of our students are faced with. I began volunteering for junior achievement on top of that as well, just because I wanted to support literacy. And from there, it just kind of grew, my passion for wanting to give back. I've seen how much I really inspired a lot of these children. I've seen what I can do for them and their families, and that kind of continued and carried over into my work at PCCEO as a family development specialist, did that for 5 years. And now I'm the community outreach manager for Illinois Central College. I believe in providing our children with the education that is relevant to today's challenges. We must provide our young people with the skills they need to rewrite their own stories. And I have the vision, passion, and dedication to work with the community to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And before we hear from Paris and you're adjusting your mask, again, if you're, as candidates, more comfortable keeping the mask on, that's fine, but we're not requiring that when you're actually speaking. So, okay. Paris?
I would like to say thank you for having us tonight. I am thrilled, I am honored to serve as a candidate for the 2nd District. I have lived in the 2nd District for approximately 22 years. I've raised 3 sons who have attended schools in the 2nd District, namely Franklin, Edison, Whittier, Calvin Coolidge, and then Peoria High. All my boys have graduated, 2 have graduated college. They left District 150 ready for college with academic scholarships, and my youngest son now is in his 3rd year at Northern. I want to serve on the school board because I'm passionate. I have served, I've given back to the 2nd District over the last 20 years, serving as PTO president at Whittier, treasurer and financial secretary at Calvin Coolidge, and then I've also served as PTO president at Central. I've served on the Manual Advisory Council. I've served on several other boards, CASA, Peoria County. I've been in the election judge for the last 20 years. I've had my son serve and to volunteer. I'm passionate about children. I'm passionate about families. I know the 2nd District very well, every neighborhood association I have worked with over the last 20 years. Because of that, and because I value public education system, and because I trusted the system to educate our children with our support, I do believe some of the missing things in the district is building partnerships with the parents so that we can hold our children accountable, so the teacher does not have to do it by herself. And I would be honored to be able to serve the district and to serve in the second district.
Thank you. My name is Dan Walther, and I again want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight. It's nice to have you guys do this. And give you a little bit of background for me. I'm a lifelong Peorian. I was born and raised here in Peoria. I went to Greeley Grade School, went to Woodruff High School. Greeley's closed. Woodruff was closed as a high school, but on is another. I have 4 daughters who graduated from District 150. They're all college graduates. I went on to Illinois State University, and District 150 prepared me very well. I got a bachelor's degree in social studies comprehensive, and I have a master's degree in guidance and counseling. And when I graduated from ISU, I became a high school guidance counselor at Illini Bluffs High School in lovely Glassford, Illinois. And then after that, I got involved with the teacher union business. And I was a representative with the Illinois Federation of Teachers for approximately 12, 13 years. Then was recruited and joined the Illinois Education Association for another 12 or 13 years, then took an early retirement. And I decided I was substitute teaching actually in District 150. And I was shocked at what was going on within the district at that time. This was about 9 years ago. And I decided instead of complaining, I'd try to do something about it. So I ran for the school board. And that was when Ms. Latham was our superintendent at that time. And so the school district was in a lot of controversy. But so I learned a lot, ran for that time, lost that election. The next year there was an opening and I ran again and got elected. So I've been on the school board before for 5 years. My background gives me a whole lot of knowledge being with the teachers union on budgets for the school district and having knowing some of the nuances of what goes on within the school district. So I'm looking forward to serving District 150 again. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all for those opening statements. Now we'll move on to the questions. And the first question is one that was submitted by people here in the audience tonight, and I suppose it's not really surprising. The question is, in the aftermath of the school shooting in Texas, is there anything that should be done here in Peoria to keep our children safe? And especially, what do you see as the role of school resource officers? So with that, we will start with Paris.
I am just saddened deeply to know that children went to school and their parents had to suffer not knowing if their child made it. One thing that I think is paramount for Peoria is for us to keep our buildings locked as they are, that it's not open door policy. There's no back door. You cannot enter in any building without having access at the front door. I recall when they started instituting the locked door and the camera system. And I think it's especially important now. In the interim, I think every school, especially with the primary schools, they need to have intervention counselors. It is on the news. Children have heard about it, and we have to deal with just the trauma of knowing that a student somewhere was killed innocently. I pray, and I am a person of faith, and I pray for the safety of any child anywhere. And then as a school board member, I would work diligently to regulate and to monitor access in the buildings from the outside, from parents, from anybody in the neighborhood, because children should not have to go to school in fear, and parents should not have to send their children to a building under threat.
Thank you. And Dan, next.
I was hoping we'd get this question. I was in Florida 4 years ago when the Parkland College situation happened. it was very traumatic for me to go through this. And when Sandy Hook came about and then this thing came about, I came close to tears. It really bothered me. But the question is, what can we do in Peoria to make our schools safer? And there are a couple of things. I had been involved with the campus security officers for one time in building and grounds. We at one time here in Peoria had the only totally armed campus police force in the state of Illinois. We had that for 25 years without a single incident, a gun incident or anything. The previous superintendent was able to have the guns taken away from our campus guards. Through help with myself and Dr. Crott and some others, we have now 3 armed guards in the district. We have 7 people who are entitled to carry firearms. I would like to see that expanded. The new, or the policy we have on campus police, that could be done actually at the next school board meeting. I'm very concerned about that because there was one school board member who only wanted protection at the high schools, and my answer was 2 words, Sandy Hook. We need to take care of what's going on in the buildings, and we don't have enough cameras in a lot of places. We've got some buildings where there are 2 or 3 halls where there's not a single camera on the inside of the building. There are things that we could do to make this school district a lot safer.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely an emotional day for a lot of people. Still kind of shook up over it. There's a lot of different things that we can do. I think our school resource officers that we have now go through very rigorous training as it relates to assailants and different situations that happen, such as the one that recently happened in Texas. You know, I feel the duty of a school resource officer is very important, making sure that we continue to provide them with the training that they need to prevent things like this from happening in our school district. You know, I also look at metal detectors. So as soon as this situation happened, I would say the next day, I actually kind of got on the phone and wanted to see what we can do as a district to get metal detectors inside of all of our schools. That is something that we do have the funds for. However, we do not have the staff to actually run that. So we need to start looking at, you know, ways that we can get the staff, get additional staff that can kind of carry out that. And then there's still 2 or 3 schools in our district. When you walk inside, there's you're not automatically in the school. You're stopped and you have to buzz in from there. We need to really get that for the rest of our schools as well. So work needs to be done, and we should learn, all of us, from this situation.
Thank you. The next question I think would go to Dan. And here is that question. Are you concerned about the books young children are reading in the schools? And should some books be banned? And if so, who should decide?
For the most part, I am not concerned about the books that we're reading here in District 150. We haven't had a lot of issues with that coming up. I think it's coming now. I met with a group of parents, one of which was actually removed from a school board meeting. And they invited 3 of us to come out there. I met with them. That is the next thing they're going to do. They have a whole list of books they want us to take out of the library and some other things with that. I think the book should be reviewed by both faculty and the administration and keep that in that. Adamantly opposed to book banning. I think taking these things out. One of the things that they were concerned about was critical race theory. There's not a school district in the state of Illinois that does critical race theory. It was a bogus charge that was used in Virginia. It's one that's used here. It just doesn't happen. We don't use it. There's only a couple places that it's used. It's in law school and military school, and that's it. But it's one of the things they're bringing up. There are other books that are getting brought up. Some of you may be aware that in Florida, they removed 51 out of 52 math books. They have one math book that they okayed because some of the other things may have hinted to something. I do think the administration, and ultimately that will be up to the board members to review those recommendations by the administration and the teachers on what we should have here. But I don't view us taking books out of there. I would be very opposed to that kind of removal.
Thank you. Paris?
recently Googled that, and I think that we have to be careful about how we filter history to our children. American history is just that. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's not so great. And I think when we start safeguarding children and filtering it to the point to where they don't get the whole history, that is dangerous. I recall being a high school student, and in our history books, I didn't know, I learned about the Tulsa massacre in middle school through a weekly reader. We used to get a weekly magazine that we would read that had current events, and I just remember feeling really sad, and never was discussed until I got to college and I was in a history course. I think that was relevant, American history. I remember reading about the Spanish flu and the impact of it, and the Great Depression and all the other historical things, and why not talk about that? As a board member, I would want us to be able to share with our children the truth of the matter. And sometimes the truth is not comfortable. Sometimes the truth can be hurtful. But I think we don't need to coddle and to hide truth from our children so that they don't grow up naive to culture and the history.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. The question was in kind of 2 or 3 parts to it. Are you concerned about the books young children are reading in school? And should some books be banned? And if so, who should decide?
Awesome. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for the
welcome.
opportunity to answer the question. Yes, I do believe some books should be banned. Our libraries, a lot of time, are not looked at. There's old books that are inside of a lot of our libraries that are inside of our schools. I just left one, Roland Akers, who has an awesome librarian and an awesome library. And she went through and looked at all the books that was there. And there were books that really promoted things that we don't want our students to see. Books that were there from 50s to the 60s to the 70s that really promoted something that shouldn't be promoted inside of our schools. So I think it's very important that we look at the books that are inside of our libraries. I think it goes along with looking at making education relevant to today's students, putting books inside of those libraries that are relevant, that they can learn from, that they can grow from. Not every book is promotes certain things that I'm referring to, but I think it will be diligent for us to really look at our libraries, go through, see what books we have, and then make sure that we don't have any books that promote anything that we do not want our students to know about.
Thank you. And Greg, I think I'll give this next question to you also, and this is kind of a follow-up in some ways to the last question, and it is, should parents have a role in determining what takes place in the classroom? And especially, what about sex education, or establishing the curriculum, or book selection? Should parents have a role in determining those kinds of things and what takes place in the classroom?
Absolutely. Parents should definitely have a huge role. I mean, they're our students' first heroes. It is very important for parents to have a say-so in all aspects of education, in my eyes, especially when you talk about sex education, something that can be very, I think, and I'm sure there's a lot of parents here and a lot of parents out there watching. We all kind of have our own parenting style and tend to do things a certain way. With that said, there may be one parent that wants to handle their sex education of their child a different way, and they deserve and they should have that right. Which is why some of the sex education that we teach now, you can opt in or opt out, giving parents that choice. Parents should be inside the classroom. I promote that fully. I'm an active parent. I love going in there. I love when I know who my child's best friends are, who they mess around with at lunch and play. And it's pretty cool when you go in there and they all like, Mr. Wilson, I'm popular at Roland Acres, believe it or not. And I would love for more parents to get that feeling and feel that satisfaction by going into the school and having a voice in their education. That is essential.
Thank you. Paris, the same question?
Should I be second or last?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Parents, in terms of sex education, I think that as a child at the appropriate age, and puberty starts for most children somewhere between 10 and 12. When we talk about sex education in the classroom, we really need to just talk about basic biology, human anatomy. I think as a part of a science segment, you should be able to know your body parts. Now, when you go into sex education, what to do with those body parts, that's a whole nother level. And I think that parents should be able to filter that. I remember saying, I served on the board for the Center for Prevention of Abuse, and we had a committee called Safe to Live. And we were in middle schools even primary schools, 4th grade, and then middle schools, talking about healthy living, healthy body, not only healthy food, but then also healthy lifestyle habits. And we would send that material to the principal, and a notification went out. We sent it out to the parents at the beginning of the year saying in week 10, Safe to Live was going to be in the building. If you don't want your children to attend this AA assembly, you can opt out. I think as much as we can give our children, we should, because some parents are not comfortable talking about it.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I think this is actually a very good question. What it gets into, I think the school district and its board members, we should be as transparent as possible for the books that are out there and that what parents want to do. When I was a teacher union rep, we had in Eureka, the school board there banned the English department from doing Beowulf, the book of that. And I filed grievance, and we went after it. It actually got some national attention and stuff with it. We just didn't think that they should do that. What we did as a compromise, we did an opt-out, that people could opt out. I get a little concerned. Sex education, I understand we need to be sensitive about that. Curriculum, it gets a little iffy on that. How do you have, a math curriculum and you can say that this parent can opt out and this parent can't? You have to have some consistency there. I think those things should be looked at, but I think we should be transparent. But at some point in time, if we have to say, as Paris said, this history program is our history program, and we're going to continue with it. Because optimally, if you think about that, a parent could have their kid opt out of math, history, sex education, and then you're going, what are you going to do? So I think that we have to be very careful about the curriculum thing. Transparency, I totally agree with. I think parents should be able to do that. And I don't have a problem with the parent coming in and observing, as long as they're not disruptive.
Thank you. Okay, Paris, I believe the next question goes to you to start with. What do you consider the most important responsibilities of a school board member?
I think first and foremost, the first responsibility is to know your district you are representing. I want to serve the second district because it's a very complex district. You need to know the neighborhood AA associations so that you can build partnerships. When my students were at Whittier, we had a great partnership with every neighborhood AA association in that area within a mile radius. With that, we were able to get guest speakers, mentors. We had an outdoor classroom through a Madame Curie grant. Our parent group wrote grants. We had a parent group writing grants. Some of our neighborhood leaders joined us and served. I think it is important as a board member to be able to tap into that in the district you are representing. Every district has a different personality, if you will. First district is a little different from second. Second's a little different from the third, and then on. And I think as a board member, I would be, as I have been, talking to principals, teachers, neighborhood AA associations, just to see how we can build partnerships so that we can strengthen the neighborhood school and the student population through those partnerships.
Thank you. Dan?
I'm glad you're keeping track of this microphone, Chip. I think Paris and I will agree to disagree on the role of a board member. I think as a board member, you're elected to serve the whole district. You have to do that because, quite frankly, in most cases, the issues that come up that deal with the school district are not District 2 specific, District 1 specific, or District 3 specific. They really cover the whole district. Should you have knowledge of the district you're in? Absolutely. But I think a lot of what goes on is really district-wide. For example, we have the superintendent push forward, was able on a 4-3 vote to change the calendar for the school district. Did that affect District 2? Absolutely. Did it affect District 3? Yes. And District 1, it did. It's district-wide. One of the few issues I was trying to think about this, and Greg's been on the board in it too, was I think District 1, when we had the issue of some schools that were closed down and not torn down, and for about 10 years, they remained. That was specific to District 1 for the most part. But for the most part, you're going to get these things that I think you have to be able to work with. When I was in District 3, I worked with schools in District 2 and District 1 too. I think you have to be able to do that as a board member. And so I think what I would like to do is, and I think building the relationships that Paris talked about, I think we really have to look at working with the city of Peoria and some other things. There are some really good programs that I think that are coming up that we should be looking at. Stop.
Thank you. Greg?
Thank you. Can you repeat the question?
I will repeat the question. What do you consider to be the most important responsibilities of a school board member?
Absolutely. Thank you. I think number one, numero uno, would be having a passion to help others and to give back. I think that's that's number one. And then you have a lot of other responsibilities, such as setting goals for the superintendent. Then you evaluate the superintendent based on those goals that were set forth. And then we review and update policy. And then we enforce those policies through committees. So if there's a new policy that comes out that we really need to stay on top of, we can develop a committee of individuals to enforce that policy. Collaborate with teachers and school administration, collaborate with parents and students, be seen. That's very critical. If you get elected and only time people see you helping or inside the schools is when it's election year, then this probably isn't the job for you. And then leveraging your resources. Proud to say, been able to continue to do community events that really help a lot of people in our community. And I know my role as a school board member allows me a little bit leverage to create these events and make things happen.
Thank you. Dan, we'll start the next question with you. And in some ways, that's kind of a follow-up to the last question that talked about board responsibilities. My next question to you would be, on what criteria will you evaluate the school superintendent?
Well, I've been in that position before. I think it is important, especially when we have basically one of the highest paid superintendents in the state. But I think the criteria is we do have to set goals. We mutually agree to goals. The superintendent, then we measure, in this case, if she meets those goals, and if those goals are on academic areas, if those goals are in collaboration with the teacher organization, or if those goals are dealing with parent groups, what are the goals that we set? Those goals should be set by the board and the superintendent mutually, and we should go with those. And then we should be able to take a look at that. Part of the role that we have as a board is oversight, and it's oversight of administration. So administration a lot of times will come to us and present proposals. There are times when on a Friday, we would get a packet and there may be a recommendation there for a $750,000 education program with no background of where it is in that. I think we need to keep those lines of communication open with the superintendent to make sure that we understand when they make those recommendations, what they're for and what the background, where has this worked before? What's the efficacy of this program in other places? And so I think that's a goal that we have to keep. And there's also going to be one other thing that deals with basically a school board member is that there are going to be times when you disagree with the administration, and that means at times it may be a 6-1 vote, and you may have to be that one.
Thank you. Greg, the same question to you. On what criteria will you evaluate the school superintendent?
Thank you. As Dan had stated, the board is tasked with setting goals. I'm fortunate enough to kind of be on the school board now, so I know a few of those goals. And some of the key ones that I've kind of just penciled in here involves community involvement, being active with creating partnerships with nonprofit organizations such as Carver Center, Urban League, Goodwill, METEC, the list goes on and on. We definitely want a strong relationship with those organizations, especially now with the modified calendar that we have in place. We want to make sure that those students have places to go to, coordinate those summer camps and different things of that nature. Business diversity, bringing diversity into some of the business that Peoria Public Schools has. Also curriculum that moves the needle forward. Just maybe 2 board meetings ago, we passed a math curriculum that's going to allow kids on the south end of town, math curriculum that hopefully improves those math skills, and we can improve the algebra throughout district-wide that we offer currently. And then a relationship with teachers, American heroes. We have to be solid when it comes to our teachers. We have to. There's already a teacher shortage now. We can't afford to lose any more teachers. So that has to be.
Thank you. All right, Greg, we'll ask you to.
Oh, do I get to answer that?
I'm sorry. Yes, please do. That was my mistake.
That's okay. I am keen on oversight and accountability. And I think with all of us in the workforce, we all are accountable to our supervisors, to management. And then, so as a school board member, I would like to, I don't know if the school board does it annually but I think it's prudent that after the first semester, things should be looked at. We should look at where we are with our goals, and then how can we reach them in that second semester. I am an advocate for teamwork, and I think it takes every person on the board to be able to give oversight and to be objective. I have some friends that actually serve on the board. I'm friends with some administrators, but I believe in accountability. And I think if you have that assignment, if you're the superintendent, principal, or either teacher, you have to value that, and you have to respect oversight. And so as a school board member, that would be one of my benchmarks, is keeping and making sure whatever goals that have been set, that we strategically try to monitor to make sure that the goals have a pathway to be accomplished.
Thank you. Okay, if my math is correct, we'll start this next question with Greg. And it is a question that touches on a part of your response to the last question. And the question is, do you support the recent change in the so-called year-round calendar, or do you favor returning to the more traditional calendar?
That's a great question. Thank you. So when it was brought to me, I voted against it. I voted against the modified calendar. Not because, not honestly, it was really the families that were affected and not hearing those voices. So a lot of times at school board meetings, if you really pay attention, there could be just a whole group or a lot of individuals that don't come to the school board meetings and let those thoughts be heard. I knew that it was going to be a big change, and I knew that there were some that were unaware that this was on the table for vote. So really would have liked to see it get publicized even more. I know we did numerous town hall sessions on it, but we have to start being creative on how we get people to attend, public things such as school boards and city council meetings and things of that nature. So I voted against it. However, I'm very optimistic. I'm a very optimistic individual. And now that we have this modified calendar, there's no going back. And we have to do what we need to do to make sure our students succeed. And there's a lot of different things in place. The school's not going to shut down, so that student that needs to get additional work can still come into the schools. And that community collaboration that we had that I talked about earlier at the last question is relevant.
Thank
Tried to get
you.
it out.
Paris?
I have mixed emotions with it. I no longer have a student in the district, but the first thing that came to mind for a high school student 16 and up is what about their summer job? Most high school kids, if they are a part of a summer program, just like college students, they kind of work from June to the second week of August. And with school starting August 3rd, that would take away some of the opportunities some of those students have, even to participate in the park district and the city, so many other summer job opportunities. I think at some point, I'm not against it so much as I am, did we do some problem solve? Did we look at the summer hire? Did we look at daycare for those 6 weeks in and the 2 weeks out? What are the interventions planned for those families who don't have a grandmother or a babysitter? And then lastly, I would encourage, even with the teachers union, and I've talked to people on both them sides of it, sometimes in life, it's worth trying something to see if it's gonna work, to see if it's gonna help us close the learning gaps that have been widened since COVID. If bringing the kids back earlier, and if it's gonna have some kind of impact, let's try it and see. Let's put it on a schedule, try for a couple of years. Worst case scenario is we go back to the other calendar. I think we have to think outside of the box. We have to be willing to try things if it's going, just to see if it's gonna help. You can't get a different outcome doing the same thing.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Do you support the recent changes to the so-called year-round calendar, or do you favor returning to the more traditional calendar?
Yeah, I was opposed to it, and had I been at the board at the time, when Greg was there and stuff, it would have been a 4-3 against going with the calendar. And for some of the same reasons that my friend Paris said here, I think it takes away kids' summer jobs that they can't have the potential to do that. There are also kids that participate in extracurricular softball and soccer. Those things get limited because we're going to do that. We were told that there was data that showed that by doing this year, that it would speed up and help people coming back from that. We were never given that data. I don't think there is data that shows that. And quite frankly, the history of this has been California about 10 years ago tried doing full year-round schools. Almost all of them have come back to a normal regular schedule. I think the board has voted to do this they've got a 2-year program that's going with it. And I think we should try it. I think we should try it for 2 years and if it's doing well, applaud it and keep it going. If it's not, then look at changing it at that point in time. Because I think I still have some questions. There are costs that are built into this that we're not told to people about that. We're going to have basketball and different sports that are going on during the time when we're supposed to be off. Who's going to pay for the coaches for that? Who's going to have the volunteers that have to come to those kind of things? So we're going to have students that are supposed to be on break. And I'm going to make another stop sign here. But I think we have to be concerned about that, looking at what some of the hidden costs are.
Thank you. All right, Paris, I would ask you to begin with the next question. And it's something of a 2-part question submitted by the audience here tonight.
Okay.
Do you support charter schools? If so, why? And if not, what should be done with the charter schools?
Okay.
So, do you support charter schools? If so, why? And if not, what do we do with the ones that we have?
Okay, so I worked for state government for about 18 years. I worked in corporate America another 20 years prior. What I learned in my job experience is corporate money is different from public money. Charter schools are semi-private schools. So I'm for them if they can fund themselves just like most private schools do, with state fund and with whatever funds they can tap into. There's a lot of money there available to grants, grants. Where I struggle with charter schools, especially there's one in the district where the district, supports, is they keep, one of the charter school benefits is a smaller classroom. And most children will learn better if they're not in a room of 30 people, if there's 20 kids. So I celebrate that. But if it's becoming too expensive for the district and we're giving our district children less, then I think we need to allocate money to the district children because it is a public school system. We have to be very careful with the public-private two-step because private schools and charter schools can raise their own money unlimited, and they can operate with different regulations, a little more freedoms than a public school system does. And so I think we just have to monitor that heavily and make sure that it stays balanced and that it's not a budget bust for us.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, the charter school within District 150 is Quest. And quite frankly, the funding under Illinois law is basically they take dollars from District 150 and go to the charter school. So they can raise some private money, but for the most part, it's money that they're taking away from District 150 regular classrooms and it goes to the charter school. About after their second 5-year period renewing, we had a book that was produced by the administration and our law firm that showed that there were 26 criteria that they needed to meet to renew. They met 3. My feeling is they should never have been renewed, and they've been renewed twice on 2-year terms. And I think they do take money away from the school. They have not produced, despite the fact that they have much smaller class size, they have not produced the kind of academic performance that I think they should do to warrant to stay open. I know there's some individual stories that are great for some of the kids out of Quest, but the reality is I just don't think overall they've done enough. And I think when they have test scores that are at or below the regular classrooms, I don't see a reason why we should keep the charter schools open. Plus, it's also taking money away from District 150 schools.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, thank you for the question. Do I support charter schools? If so, why? I would say yes, I support charter schools. Specifically, also, I support Quest. I would like to see Quest be successful. However, there's a monitoring process, and many of the reasons have been stated by my colleagues here. I mean, it does every year for like the past 5 years. The number continues to increase on the amount of money that's leaving Peoria Public Schools going to Quest. I think that's an issue. I think we need to really look close in the monitoring of Quest, which is one of the reasons why they were granted an extension in the first place. As a board, we need to really look at that, make sure that they're actually doing what they said they're going to do, which is those smaller class sizes, the hiring of certified teachers, and et cetera. So long story short, yes, there are some issues that I see, as it relates to Quest. I think the continued monitoring of those goals is going to be very important for the future.
Thank you. Dan, we'll start the next question with you. Some classrooms have gone the entire year with substitute teachers. What should be done to ensure that every classroom has a certified teacher before the start of the school year?
This is not only a Peoria problem, it's a national problem, and it's an Illinois problem. And I do give the administration some credit. They've tried to reach out and do some different things. We've brought some people in from overseas with some foreign visas to help fill in on some of these. I've been a strong proponent of, we have a program here called Grow Your Own, where we have a teacher here who works with other people within the district for them to get certified that have grown within District 150. And so what that does is 2 things. It helps us fill the classroom. It also increases diversity that we have within the schools. So I would like to see Grow Your Own expanded. The other thing, and I'm serious about this, is that we have people from Ukraine, we've got people from Afghanistan, we've got other people that are very highly educated. And I think we should be a city that would receive those people and bring them here and have them, if they're qualified to do that, have them come here and help. I think that would be one of the ways we could fill this.
Thank you. Greg?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. So substitute teachers being in the classroom, what we can do to solve that. As Dan stated, there's a national teacher shortage. However, that's no excuse, no excuse. We have to do what we need to do to bring in teachers to our district. And also Dan mentioned the overseas getting minority teachers here. We were able to start the school year with 1 to 2 teacher openings, which was a very great thing. We were able to get national coverage on that through CNN and other news outlets. I would like to see that continue to rise. Dan mentioned again, grow your own. Love to put more supports inside of grow your own. Recently have a cousin that literally today found out she will be getting funds through the Grow Your Own. So she's going to be looking to become a teacher. I think that's a beautiful thing. Currently, that teacher is part-time. I want to look to make her full-time. Let's put a lot of resources into that program and make it to what it can be. Intentional. We need to be intentional about our teacher hirings. Hiring an individual to go out and recruit teachers is one thing that we need to do. And we need to be the place where teachers want to work. We have to be the place where teachers want to work. We want to, we're going to be faced with this, teacher shortage. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
As far as substitutes starting the school year, what I've learned from some retired teachers, if it is a retired teacher who is subbing, I think that is notable for a couple of reasons. You're bringing in a person who has experience, who knows about lessons plans, interventions, teaching tools. So I don't think having subs is a horrible thing if it's a former retired teacher. A lot of times with certain businesses and with state, we do 75-day hires. We bring in people with experience so that the learning curve is not there. I do think in Peoria and the surrounding area, our salaries are a challenge in some kind of way. We've got to not be so top heavy like corporate America is. You shouldn't have a CEO making millions and everybody else is taking a price cut or a cost of living cut. So I think we need to balance that in the budget for salaries, incentives for a first year teacher. I know that the district reimburses for if you go back to school. I think that's a great tool, but that we've got to get some kind of incentives that will keep our teachers. We get first year teachers and then they don't stay with us because they want to go to another district where they are paid higher. And I think we do need to regulate that.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask one final question, and we'll give Greg the first shot at this question. And the question is this: considering the challenges facing Peoria students, why is it important for the school board to change names on school buildings? Right?
So yes, there's a lot of challenges that our school buildings are faced with. I think it's a great thing to change the names of some of the schools just to kind of add the diversity within the district. We have a high percentage of minorities in our school district, and some of the school buildings don't reflect that. I think it's awesome when I can talk with the student and she's excited to hear about who Dr. Maud Sanders is. I had someone come up to me yesterday talking about C.T. Vivian and how glad that they were that they go to C.T. Vivian now and that they understand some of the things that he's done for civil rights. And I think that's what it's kind of all about. And I think in the grand scheme or the grand scale, I think that really will help build confidence in some of our students as well. to really understand where they come from, to understand that they can also become a doctor. They can also, look up to someone and one day push the needle in our community and get rewarded for it. I think that's very important. I think it's a step in the right direction towards changing some of the issues we have in our communities, because what you see in the schools are a direct reflection of what we see in our communities. It's just going inside the schools.
Thank you. Paris?
I don't think it was a bad thing. I don't think it did not hurt us. I think if it took away focus from other issues like the reading interventions that need to be in every building. One thing about reading is it's paramount to learning any subject. You must read in math, science, English, you must read. And if it's gonna cost the district a certain amount of money to change signs, it would be great if we had some corporate partners and somebody who could fund that. But if we were able to invest some money with some reading interventions where it is needed most, I think that, would be wise. I also like it for this reason, as Greg said, if it's gonna build some, morale and teach them history and add some value to their education, then I am all for it. I don't think it's a major thing, and neither do I think it's a minor thing. I don't think it's that essential that's going to change what is happening in the building. I think we need to focus on what's going on in the building, staffing, teacher, and all of the interventions that are needed so that we can have competent children graduate, leave middle school ready for high school, and then leave high school ready for a trade or either college experience.
On that vote that was proposed, Greg was the one that proposed it. I think it probably got some national attention. It was one of those 6-1 votes, and I was the one that voted against it for a couple of reasons. One is the way the vote was proposed. If there was one person out of the 5 or 6 that you were opposed to, you had to vote no, the way it was done. We didn't vote on them each individually. And my other point was I kind of bifurcate the issue. What I mean by that is some of the names that we picked, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, some of the other people became very controversial. We have schools in this district that are named after a street, Sterling. We've got Glen Oaks after a tree. Renaming those schools to recognize people who have contributed into Peoria, I don't have a problem with at all. Now, what's going to happen is there's still going to be a cost to that. The estimated cost I think they gave to the school board was $45,000 a school. I think that's probably lowball and stuff with it. But I think I'm going to agree with my friend Paris. I think that it may not be the most single important thing to do, because I think what's more important is that our kids successfully get through what we're doing. And what we're doing right now is we're passing kids on grade to grade. They're going from first grade to second to third, third to fourth. Whether they're passing or not, they're getting moved on. And I would rather have a seat concentrate on having those kids successfully move to the next grade than delve into what the name of the school is.
Well, thank you very much. We are getting close to the time when we want to have some closing statements from each of the candidates. But before I get to that point, first of all, I want to thank each of the candidates for being here tonight and participating. On a personal note, I will tell you, as I was getting ready for this, my biggest fear was, what am I going to do if somebody talks and talks and talks and they don't honor the stop sign? And obviously that was not a problem. We had great cooperation from each of the candidates. So thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for your cooperation with the rules. And thanks also to all of you who are in attendance. You braved some kind of nasty weather and lightning and thunder to come out, but the League of Women Voters is very much committed to that idea that is on this banner, that democracy is not a spectator sport. So we need all of you to not be spectators, but be active participants in the process. So with that, we will kind of reverse the order from opening statements. We'll start with Paris and then move to Dan and then lastly Greg. So Paris.
Okay, I'm
2
grateful.
minutes.
2 minutes. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my passion and my care for public school district. I think it does matter. And my friend to my right, yes, when you're on the board, you are going to represent the entire district. But there's a reason why they have first district, second district, and third district, because every district seat needs to be able to represent that segment of the district. And in partnership with the other board members, it does matter if you know the second district, since you're asking to represent us. I'm passionate about it. I've donated countless hours in the community, serving at the middle school, the high school. I volunteered at Sterling. I volunteered at Glen Oak because I care about the public school system. Unfortunately, poverty is an issue, and the issues of poverty impacts people in a lot of ways. A lot of times kids don't have the resources to be able to achieve because parents don't. And so I think it is important if you vote for me, that I get the opportunity to demonstrate some of my professional expertise, which is I am a strategic civic engagement manager for the Illinois State Treasurer's Office. I've worked for 4 different governors, and I do understand how to build partnerships, relationships, and we got to get our parents back in the building. We got to get our parents back in our PTOs. That is a strong source. And when the parent is active in the system, children's outcomes are a lot different, and it holds them accountable for the disciplinary issues that are present. And thank you so much for having me and my colleagues and the opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Well, I'm probably going to talk fast here because there were a couple of issues I wanted to get into that we didn't, but we had some really good questions here. I think one of the things Pear's talked about that does deal with District 2 is that we do have some poverty issues within the district. There are some exciting things that are going on right now. And one is the city just came up with a fund that they have so that they do a contributing down payment if you want to buy a house. And if you take a look at the map of what they've done with it, it's mostly District 2 and part of District 1.
Correct.
I think that is really a good thing that we've got going on there. City Councilman Kelly has come up with a plan that there's a tax abatement if you buy a new house in these certain areas, that you don't have to pay taxes. It phases out over 10 years. That's another increment. There's a part of the state law that they're talking about rehabbing a house that you can do the same thing. The other thing that we should talk about is I had a questionnaire on one of the groups. I've been endorsed by the Peoria Federation of Teachers, Peoria Support Staff, West Central Building Trades, and the past mayor. One of the questions they asked was, what funds could you think that the district could bring in that would not cause you to raise taxes? That's a trick question. And I say, here's one of the things that we've done. Those of you that have watched any of the school board meetings, there's a gentleman by the name of Terry Knapp, who has complained for, I think, 22 years that ever since the riverboat has been here, the city of Peoria has not shared a penny, and that's accurate, of millions of dollars. Well, we've got a couple of new resources that are coming in, and it's going to sound strange. We've got legal marijuana and we've got sports betting. And I think the school board should try to work with the city so that we get a fixed amount of that money now, so that 10 years from now, Terry Knapp doesn't have to go up there and say, we could have had this money, but we didn't do it. We've got to ask for it. And that's a fund outside of that. You don't raise taxes by doing that. The last thing I had on that, I was active within the Illinois Association of School Board. I was active in Peoria getting the countywide half-cent tax going with it. If you improve that so that every school, I'm going to go over a minute for 30 seconds. If you improve that so that every county in the state had to do that, that would improve Peoria to a full penny instead of a half a penny, and that money would go countywide, and we're the largest in the county. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And I yield 15 seconds to each one of my friends.
Oh, no, it's all fine. I would like to say the Peoria Federation of Teachers has endorsed me as well. They're a great bunch. So I want to continue being your school board member of District 2 because I've been in public service for as long as I remember. I see the challenges and obstacles that some of our children are faced with. Instead of talking about what can be done, I've always been the type to want to take initiative. For instance, leadership outside of the board. So what can I do outside of my role as a board member to help influence the students in our district? holding toy giveaways that gave over 600 gifts to children and computers for over 350 families, while also providing free haircuts, are holding a Mind Over Matter book drive and getting over 1,000 books of substance for the Juvenile Detention Center, are helping the Yanni Collective hold a Dickam College Fair that included breakout panel sessions and over 25 colleges in attendance to speak with juniors and seniors. Also, just to, as a note, June 4th at Glen Oak Community Learning Center, we will have an end of the school year bash, free food, free video gaming, free laser tag, everything free, dance competitions, and we're giving 2 cars away to juniors or seniors. So any information that any information that juniors or seniors need for that, they can reach me on my email, greg.wilson513@gmail.com. On June 28th, I ask for your vote to continue this work, and together we can continue to make a huge impact on our community. Thank you again to League of Women's Voters for this opportunity, and thank you for everyone watching as well.
Thank you. Thank you again to the participants. And I think one of the most important things would be to emphasize again what Mr. Wilson said. We do have an election coming up June 28th, so it's important to come to candidate forums like this, but it's also important at each of these elections that you're out voting so that democracy does work in Peoria. So thank you all.
And you can vote now, by the way, early voting is there.